Alright everyone, we are back with another VOD review on Route 66. So this is of one of our mixed scrambled team scrims on Route 66. So in this match, team 2 won. So we're going to start off by analyzing Hikari on the Batiste on Route 66 attack, and this will be a whole map review. 15 minutes of footage, so yeah, let's get into it.
Attackers incoming. Spot the payload.
Oops. Okay.
I am going to the payload. Please move behind the barrier. Get them off me. Enemies spotted.
Like right here. Okay. I want to play this footage back and listen. You hear that thumping sound on the left side? There he is.
Right on target.
That's just a bit of an awareness thing, but that's okay.
We still need you.
Uncanny attitude positive là.
Here, there you can use your exo boots to jump onto the train so that you have an earlier line of sight.
Damage increase.
Let me show you how it's done.
My ultimate is almost ready. Move back.
Payload stop. Not exactly what.
So this is where we do a really sloppy rotation, which I can't remember whose fault it was, but either way, it's not yours. Okay, so here, instead of just only spamming healing into Roadhog, like, you have open opportunities to do damage here to that Batiste who's not behind shield. And like dropping down, like Roadhog is so much sustain and he's in such a safe spot that he doesn't really need that much help. And by coming down to the low ground and having your by coming down to the low ground and having like, oh Jesus, okay, by having a lot of the team on the high ground limits how much you can actually do. Like, look out here, you can't really heal the Aretha until she peeks out. And like here too, if you just jump onto the high ground to assist the Vara. Because like, okay, so Batiste, he does a lot of healing, right? You know, with his regen burst and his 60 healing AoE grenades. But that doesn't mean he can't do damage. And by not doing damage, you are losing out on potential value, despite the fact that he's a support.
Regen burst activated. All better. Now.
The payload has reached the chip.
Amplification matrix almost charged.
Actually, you know, let's go back to that fight again.
My ultimate is almost ready.
Payload stop. Not exactly what we were going for.
So, just like in general, like if we take a look at, let me go up here, thanks game. Okay, so if we look at the positioning of like where you are, So one of his Batista's strengths is his vertical mobility. It's easy for him to rotate from high grounds to low grounds and get back up onto those high grounds. But if you detach yourself from the high ground horizontally, like you are now, like in order for you to get back here, you have to rotate like this. You kind of negate the fact that he even has that mobility. So, you know, when you're here and then you drop down to go heal Roadhog, who didn't really need healing, instead if you had rotated this way, it could have opened up more opportunities to heal the team. Not that you necessarily miss out on that much value, but you could have. Okay. And like to this point, like you have not, I don't think you've crouched once. And like instead of just like doing nothing here, like oops, I always do that. You can be looking to like fire at their shield if it's up. Okay. And there, when you place that lamp, I assume that was because of the Bastion ultimate, but you don't even know where Bastion is. So, like here. Like right here you should be spamming shield with the team, because as long as that shield's up, as long as they have some flanking character, which there's a Junkrat on the left, but he's not shooting at you guys, then you should be contributing to damage, not healing. Or not doing nothing. Yeah, and then here you pop the lamp, but you don't even, like, you know Bastion's in that general direction, but you don't know what angle he's taking, you don't know if maybe he's taking a different position. You just kind of yeet the lamp when the shield's still up. Like, you're like doubling up on protection that you don't need. And now that when the tire comes out, we don't have a fresh lamp for it. Unlike here, you should be shooting at shield.
Let me show you how it's done.
Protect the payload.
Okay.
Team up for special attack.
That was close. That concussion mine landed right next to you. Okay. Yeah, you definitely need to play around high grounds more. That's definitely your biggest weakness. Like right now, like just jump up to a high ground position. And you can even like plan out if they go for a recontest, you can at matrix where the Bastion is. And like, I don't know if you just, yeah, like, I don't know. You cannot heal Roadhog from the range that you were firing at. Like the radius isn't that large, so I don't know if that's because you didn't know how large the radius is. But if you do, then you know, just like you don't have to push into the hallway, but you know you were trying to fire from here. So like even moving like right here if you wanted to, maybe even toss a lamp here. Or even just making this long rotation to have the full sight lines. But like anything other than just standing here and shooting at this wall where you can't even heal the Roadhog. Okay. I'll let this pan out.
Heroes never die. Team up for special attack.
Okay. So let's go back and look again at that fight. Okay. And go over what went wrong. Okay, so, like right here. So, you see the Roadhog on the right side because of Sonic Arrow. And right now, there's only one person in any vague danger of dying, and that's the Mercy who's rezzing. So if you see that Roadhog push the Mercy because of his because of the Sonic Arrow, Like, then that's the only reason why you should be looking to heal anyone. Other than that, you should be looking for opportunities to find damage. So, like, even here, your team is very safe. Dynamite comes in. Okay. So, now that they've popped Valkyrie and Supercharger, you know that they're going to be more aggressive, which now you can play more towards just healing, which is fine. But, like, now those ults are kind of running out, and your team's stabilized again, but Orisa gets hooked again. Okay, so Orisa just got hooked. So, okay. Notice how this payload is such like a huge line of sight issue for you. Like, you can probably fire a grenade like maybe underneath the payload and heal the Orisa, but like if you play back here, you can easily see both sides of the payload, and this amp matrix is so far forward. So the best place to place the amp matrix in many situations is kind of in between the front line and the back line, which is kind of like here. So because you've kind of joined the front line, so if you place this amp matrix, if you backed up to like this area and you would place the amp matrix here so that you could use it for healing, because the tanks aren't going to benefit from it unless they're backing off to fire through it, and you're not going to benefit from it really because, you know, this Roadhog is getting hit, and if you're using it to heal him, then he's probably going to back off behind the shield where the amp matrix can't even see him anymore, and plus it's so close to their front line that they can just push past it. So place your amp matrices farther back. Okay, there I like that you're doing damage, and then you can counter healing. Like, that's what I want to see more. Because Batiste has a lot of damage potential. Like, all of the supports do. Like, except maybe, like, Moira doesn't have that high, like, general damage. Unless, like, you find an isolated swishy. But, like, a lot of the supports really do have a lot of damage potential that a lot of supports miss out on. And here you should be playing on the high. No, they have a Widow. Just kidding. Wait. Okay, so if you know this Widowmaker is positioned here, so rather than standing out in the open, maybe play around this pillar. Because Batiste is a hero that can hits what's it called? His alternate fire, his healing grenades have a delay between them. So if you play around corner and you peek out and fire, or even better, peek out this way and fire, you know, could render you a lot safer. Even if the Widow's not looking at you in this moment in time, like, what if she did? And then you're dead. In theory. Alright. Oh, this is where we play Slambulance and you're playing, or not Slambulance, this is where we're playing Dive and you're playing Lucio.
He's still not ready for time to flow forward again.
Time is a river. It may be stopped for a while, but it will always flow the same direction.
Five, four, three, two, one. Attackers incoming.
Okay.
Stop the payload.
Do you know what the job of the Lucio here is? Like, just take a second. Like, pause the video and think about it. Okay, so hopefully you've paused the video and you thought about it, and you came up with an answer. So, the job of the Lucio here is to peel for Zenyatta. Your job is not to heal the tanks, not to dive with the DPS, or dive with the dive tanks. No, no, no. Your one job is to peel for Zen, and that comes in the form of boops. That comes in the form of healing. And that comes in the form of speed. So in any situation you have these three great options. When the Zen is in a situation in which the Zen is in danger, you have these three tools available to you to make sure Zen stays alive. Genji's throwing. Okay, don't know why you amped heals there, but we'll get to the bottom of that later. Okay. So, I presumably here you're going to die. Now, this composition, this so-called bong dive. Now, this composition is made to play against other dive comps. Now, say in theory, right, they're running Winston Diva, like the enemies, and they're running Ana Zen for healing. And they're running a Tracer as well and like a Widowmaker. I don't know. Something like that. So the great advantage that this comp has is that we have a very flexible backline that can still provide value to the front line. Lucio provides long range damage. Zen provides even more long range damage and a Harmony and a Discord. And our backline's a lot more survivable than, say, an Ana Zen. And, you know, maybe not as much as an Ana Lucio. But still, it has a fairly strong backline survivability with high damage. That's what this comp is great at. What it allows you to do is you can trade backlines with the enemy, so that, you know, if your Zen has their backline discorded and then you speed out, or if their Zen has any target, if our Zen has any target discorded and you're pumping in that damage, the goal would be for us to out damage them, and then you two to stay alive based on this Lucio, again protecting the Zen. So here though, they're not running dive, they're running Orisa Hog, Lucio Moira. So our win condition changes a lot, because it's not as simple as it would be if it were against dive, because they have a very, very tough anti-dive comp. And here we're looking to switch after first fight. Now, as Lucio, once you know what the enemies are running, which you will know in a second fully because comps are revealed in 15 seconds, you need to understand that you can be more aggressive, because this Zen doesn't need the backline protection anymore. So let me, scrap all this. Okay. So the tanks are getting pressured and they're taking a lot of damage. Winston's already invested both of his cooldowns just to drop back onto the enemy team. And Diva's down about 100 to health.
Oh, this is my jam.
Okay, so now the fact that you're still playing around Zen here, even when the tanks are taking so much pressure, is something that I'd really want to see in dive. Right? This would be good play if it was dive versus dive, but it is not. So rather than amping heals in the backline where you're out of radius of anyone, turn on speed, run towards the tanks, and then amp healing. Now you've lost practically both tanks. Like, yes, Diva's a baby, but you've lost both tanks. So you need to go on speed and retreat this Zen. Actually, no. Even better than that, turn on speed and just run into the payload. And just die. At least stall the payload. Now that these comps have changed, your job is completely different. So now your job has to do with frontline manipulation rather than protecting Ana, because again they don't have these backline threats. So this comp with loose skill allows us to close the distance with our front line onto their front line or back line because of our speed. But that was a staggered engage, which is your fault.
Give me another shot.
You did need to use the amp, despite how low she was, just because of danger. Okay. So a few things. First thing is, from the time that you've come out of that spawn, in your most recent spawn, till right now, you have not touched a single wall with your wall ride. So let's see if that theme persists. But even here, I don't. You're playing very far back, so far away from your tanks, which you don't need to be doing. In fact, you should be doing the opposite, and you should be playing with the tanks. Because, like, what value are you getting here from being by Ana? Like, who's gonna dive Ana? And if Hanzo comes for the Ana, you standing next to her isn't gonna save her. And, like, there, when you're trying to close the distance with speed, like, wall running is gonna be much faster. And plus the speed, you can get there really fast. Alright, that amp is decent. Okay. So you beat fairly aggressively. Like, I don't think you're beating here to really save anyone. Everyone's pretty much full health except for Hanzo, but you don't even see Hanzo when you're beating, so I don't think that's for him. So if you're gonna beat aggressively, you have your amp that's about to come off cooldown, but even if you didn't, switch the speed and amp. As Ak would call it, use the beat and boost technique. Okay, so you do switch the speed eventually. Right there was your first wall ride since that respawn. Okay, so here you're 1v1ing a Roadhog. So let's go back and watch that. Okay, so we know that in this fight, the win condition is a grab dragons. So you need to be looking to help set up that win condition. And that win condition becomes much harder if Zarya is dead. So right here, like, you need to watch the peel, like, almost for your Zarya by booping that Roadhog to a different direction when he's right on top of her. Yeah, you need to be using walls as much as possible when you're trying to move quickly. Like when you're coming at a spawn like this. hiding from the Riptide, that's fine. Oh, okay. Oh, hold on. Before we go on, I want to look back here. No, earlier. Nice, you're on point with your tanks. That's fine. Now that you know that they're trying to come high left, you can actually make your... Whoops. You can make your way on over here. And try to get some verticality on this cliff face. Not necessarily above them, but you want to be in this general area so that you can look to boop someone too far forward to either force their hand in engagement or perhaps secure a kill. Not by yourself, but like by booping them into your team. Yeah. Okay, now your Reinhardt's retreating. Oh no, he comes back, okay. Oh, you went back to heal your Ana. Alright, that's fine. But again, you don't need to be on top of her. Like, just having her at the edge of your radius is fine. So you can still provide any support that your tanks may need.
My ultimate is charging.
Because in this comp, which is very similar to theirs, except they have a Moira, the best value most of the time, like optimally, the way you want to be using your amps is for engaging and disengaging quickly, not healing people. You should, like, the amp heals should only come out when, like, your team is in, like, someone is in threat of dying, or your team has taken a lot of damage and you need that amp. But otherwise, you should be looking to get speed amps when we're going aggressive or running away. There's a Junkrat behind on the high. Well, you can like, I'm not expecting you to go like 1v1 the Junkrat and kill him, but like by being up there and like a reasonable distance, like if Junkrat's playing here, right, and you're down here, but what if you were to, I don't know, wall ride so that you're kind of up here? You can kind of fire at him, and you don't have to kill him, but just keep him in check so he's not just standing there being checked by no one, spamming at everyone. Maybe we have less of the grab. Let's go back again. Okay, now that the Rhine split off. Oh no, our Rhine is going for a flank shatter here. That's why you're all the way up here. Yeah, actually, because the Rhine was... Okay, how about this? So, we're going to talk about win conditions one more time. So, the win condition, first is the Dragon Strike, but that doesn't work. Your next win condition is the flanking shatter. So, when win conditions are happening, you need to think about what happens if my win condition doesn't succeed. What happens if Reinhardt doesn't land a flanking shatter? Right, you want to make a plan for when things go wrong, so you're not caught with your pants down, forcing to like amp, heal, and then hobble away. Like this. And then, like, now Ryan's dead. So instantly, you should be thinking, how do I retreat? And now your main healer's dead too. Like, this is double like get out. And like, you should not be further engaging. You should be amping speed out of here. And when your main healer's dead, which you know she's dead because she died so early in the fight, like when you were hiding behind that wall in that tunnel, you know, give yourself some healing when you're so low on HP. Like, you know, 1 second of healing just like gave you like a quarter of your HP. Like, sorry, gave you 25% of how much HP you had there. Like that, when you're like firing at where the Hanzo was, like that's the kind of checking damage that I was talking about with the Junkrat. So even though he wasn't there and he retreated, like that, the idea and the intent is there, which I like. And again, there, like, okay, so this might have been the fault of whoever's ult tracking, or if there's anyone ult tracking, but you know, their Ryan just landed a pin on, like a full pin on a Reinhardt, so he's going to have at least close to shatter, if not shatter. So you should be thinking, well, if my Reinhardt doesn't block the shatter, which he didn't, at least for you, then I need to be there with my sound barrier so that we can stabilize. And honestly, if you had wall road here, you might have been able to get to here fast enough so that your beat might have been actually beat. So your beat might have been able to save the game, or like the defense. Okay, and like there, it's like, okay, the fight's getting kind of devolved. Like, to me, when you amped, it looked like a panic amp. Like, okay, you got your Doomfist who's low on your left, but he got the mini. And then Dragon Check comes in, which is just gonna split you. So, and then, when there's like no one near you except for a full health Ana, you amp heals. So, before you before you do anything, right, and especially before you invest huge cooldowns like amp, you have to be thinking, like, what is this amp doing? Why am I amping heals? Okay, so they're like playing your own payload and like fighting them. That's fine. That's what you're definitely doing. Okay, is that the end? Yeah, that's the end. Okay. So, in terms of final notes, so definitely you need to use verticality. Like, that's your biggest, or maybe not even verticality. Is that spelled right? No. Vertical. Okay. And on Lucio, I'm talking about wall riding. So, like move more. So when you're on Lucio, you know, you're 80-80 strafing, like, on the ground. Which, you know, is better than, you know, standing still. But, like, think about the options that wall riding gives you. Like, it opens up so many opportunities when you're wall riding. And there are some times where wall riding is an objectively good choice. Like, coming out of spawn, trying to get back to the fight. Like, there is no reason not to wall ride. When other times, you know, you might have to evaluate whether to wall ride or not and where to wall ride, but still. In general, wall ride more on Lucio. Wall ride. And use your exo boots on Batiste. Exo boots. And, you know, once you start using these exo boots to actually gain high ground, but apart from just using them for that purpose, just pressing crouch on Batiste, like, you know, crouch spamming is pretty good on, like, all heroes when you're getting fired at by, like, say, like a Widowmaker. But especially on Batiste, because it can charge your exo boots prior to when you might actually need them. So if a situation comes up in which you should need them, then you have them ready, right? So that's the first thing. So on Lucio, oh, I realized what I was doing. I was changing the size of my scroll wheel. Okay, oops. Alright, that's fine. So Lucio, your amps. Okay. Improve on your amps, because your amps seem very kind of like out of nowhere. Sometimes, like, they get no value, or sometimes when they do get value, it's reactionary, kind of panicky, like, oh shit, I'm gonna die, time to amp. So try to play safer when you need to. So what I mean by that is recognize how your team is playing, play around that idea, so that you're in a position where you're not going to be forced to use your amp. That's a good way to say it. Forced amps. Because again, you want to be using your amps proactively on speed to engage on the enemy, rather than having to be in a bad position, get punished, and then getting forced to use amp to save yourself. Amps, wall riding. That's the main bit of Lucio. There are some other small things like, you know, booping for displacement, but for now, focus on that and walls. Like, these are your main two big flaws on Lucio. And with Batiste, you're into the same idea as Lucio with your exo boots. You want to be looking to take high ground positions when you can for the superior sightlines, and you also want to be looking to do more damage. I don't mean just like, oh, just shoot at them more. I mean, like, when your team is safe from any damage, you don't need to sit there and, like, I don't know, do nothing. Like, contribute to shield break, shoot at exposed targets. Any amount of pressure that gets you ult charge, it gets you value in general, rather than either healing near full health targets or just waiting for damage for them to take damage so you can heal them. Because, like, especially when you're playing Orisa Hog, which is when you're going to be playing Batiste most of the time, as long as the Orisa shield is up and most of your team's behind it, and they're not running a dive comp, like if you're running Orisa Hog into Orisa Hog, most likely, almost all of the time, no one's going to die until that shield goes down. no one's going to take lethal damage until the shield goes down. So be looking to contribute to your team's damage when that shield is up and it's healthy, when we're winning the shield war or when the shield war is stable. So this is the whole game sense idea of, like, does your team have momentum? Is your team winning? Does your team have the advantage? Are we losing the advantage? Did we already lose the advantage? Have we already won the fight? So ask yourself these things, and based on the answer that you give yourself, figure out how much damage should I be doing versus how much healing I should be doing, rather than just being like, oh, I'm a healer, so I heal, right? You want to find a value outside of just healing. So that's all I have for you, and I shall move on to the next VOD review now, but I hope that all this resonates and you manage to improve on it.